is the man of the champions, Bill Alfonso, giving a shout out to
Something Else.
Something Else, Daddy.
This is Nickel Matara, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 108 of Something Else. Feast your hair holes on this week's episode as we take a look at both Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling from July 23rd, 1983. Joining me, as always, is the Wade Barrett to my Corey Graves. It's Trey. Trey, how you doing today?
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
And what's that? That G1 starts in 93 minutes, and thus the show needs to go 93 minutes or under today?
Yeah, which for us is that's like it's the equivalent of like when you're about to go to the ring and you think you got 15 minutes and they tell you got 7.
I thought it's the equivalent of telling Triple H that his WrestleMania main event has only got 15 minutes instead of 40.
I wish that would have happened a couple of more times.
Oh, God, yes. See, this is the type of tangent that we can't do today because
We can't talk about how much Triple H and Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25 sucked.
and that's the one I'm thinking of. The funny thing is, like, the show is running long, and it's like they still managed to go almost half an hour. Like, how the fuck was that possible? Anyway, we're talking about Mid-South Wrestling. We're talking about World Class Championship Wrestling. It is a road trip edition of Mid-South this week because the Superdome show was July 16th. And the thing with watching these shows is they don't include any of the local stuff to go along with it. So to be honest, unless you remembered like months ago when they mentioned it in passing that the next Superdome was July 16th,
I
it's
had
like
no idea.
yeah, you wouldn't even have known until this episode when they announced, oh yeah, last weekend was Superdome.
Yeah, I was completely taken by surprise. Yeah, this would be better if they would they should include the local stuff for New Orleans in particular. I feel like.
The funny thing is, like, I knew in the back of my head that it was coming up because it's usually in the middle of July, but it just completely slipped my mind until we watched the opening of the show. And with that said, let's go to the opening of the show with Boyd Pierce, and don't get used to him, but Bill Watts.
Hello, wrestling fans. It's time for Mid-South Wrestling Television Network. Once again, an hour of exciting action, interesting interviews telling you about things that have happened in the past and look forward to in the future, and great, exciting, real live action here as we bring it to you every week. We'll see the new North American Heavyweight Champion Hacksaw Butch Reed, and we'll have highlights of that great battle against the Junkyard Dog from the Superdome, and our guest commentator will tell you all about it, and that's Cowboy Bill Watts.
Well, thank you, Boyd. And of course, in the horse racing field, the Kentucky Derby, it stands out. The 500 at Indianapolis in car racing, the Final Four in basketball, the bowl games in college football, the World Series in baseball, and of course, the Super Bowl in football. But I'll tell you another event that everybody the country over talks about. That's when Mid-South has a wrestling extravaganza at the Superdome. And I'd just like to give those of you that have never visited New Orleans or ever seen the Superdome a feel that'll take your breath away as you see this magnificent structure, as Greg Soley did some highlights on it.
All right. Now, a few things about that intro. Did it just seem weird to you, like the way Boyd introduced the show? Like, it wasn't his typical Boyd behavior.
Here's the vibe that I got, and I don't know if this is right. I think they take this segment separately, like when the live crowd wasn't there, and that's why the energy was weird.
That's very possible and actually probable. And they have done similar things before, so it's not outside of the realm of possibility. But so yeah, Boyd, like, it almost feels like they taped this intro multiple times, and this was like Boyd being threatened with his job if he didn't get this one right. And it was like, damn, man. Like, but yeah, so Watts compares this to, the World Series, the Super Bowl, etc. Notice no one ever says the show's as big as like the Ryder Cup or like the Nabisco Classic or whatever. Like, who are you to besmirch the Ryder Cup?
I don't even know what sport that is.
Golf.
That's why I didn't know.
So they showed a breathtaking video of the Superdome. It was video narrated by Watts, showing footage of fans going into the Superdome, and they showed a similar video back in April. So if you've been watching the show for at least 3 months, you've seen something similar before. Now, this was a different video; it wasn't the same as the one that we saw in April. So yeah,
Well, funnily enough, I have actually seen large crowds of people going into the Superdome for a wrestling show in person a couple of times.
Really?
And that was funny because like I was but like it looked exactly the same as it did fucking 30 years later.
Oh, definitely. And I noted in April that the hallways looked just as narrow then as they did at WrestleMania 30.
Yeah.
And that's keeping in mind that these Superdome shows are drawing around 20,000 versus the 60 or so thousand that WrestleMania was doing.
Building was built in 1975. That's like feels like a long time for a stadium like that to last, especially in New Orleans.
Especially these days.
Yeah.
It's shocking they haven't already replaced it. So the big news, of course, is that we do have a new North American heavyweight champion. His
Indeed.
name is Butch Reed. And I mean, it's a feud that we know has been happening for a while, but again, it was weird because we didn't know the match was happening. And
Yeah, I was gonna mention it during the match, but I'll just go ahead and say it. Like for us who just watch these shows, it feels an awful lot like Reed was a babyface who got treated like a complete geek, and then they just flipped a switch, and now a very short time later, he's a champion.
yes. And yeah, Dog and Dugan never got their tag team title match that this whole thing got set up through.
And that's the worst part of it.
I know.
Not making sure that they got their title shot. It's got to be the worst thing Grizzly Smith has ever done.
Absolutely the worst thing Grizzly Smith has ever done. But by the way, did Watts say that there was never been a Superdome show that wasn't a memorial show for the fans?
I don't remember.
That's what I could swear he said, and I don't think that's what he meant, if that is what he said.
You say that it was Gordon Soley's son taking the footage.
Yes. Gordon Soley's son has done this a couple times now, where he's gotten credit for filming some footage.
Didn't even know Gordon Soley had a son.
Yes, he if I recall correctly, he has a few because they had when Gordon went into the WWE Hall of Fame in Orlando, his kids did the induction speech.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it's very important to remember what happens with the WWE Hall of Fame. So, anyway, speaking of matches that you had no idea was going to happen, we had Dusty Rhodes versus King Kong Bundy in a tape fist match. Now, we did see the angle a few weeks ago where Dusty was wrestling Nick Bockwinkel in Houston, and we were wondering why the hell are we randomly getting shown this match. Bundy came out with his fists all taped and beat the shit out of Dusty. And I'm sad because again, we are not seeing the localized show. We didn't see what I'm sure were some pretty damn good fired up Dusty Rhodes promos to build this match.
Yeah, that's the real travesty of this. I feel like we missed out on a lot of the experience. That's why I like the Smoky Mountain show, because we have like direct like recordings, so
Yep.
we do get the local promos.
Now, I will say tape fist matches, there's only so much you can do in them. It's basically a match designed for two people to punch each other repeatedly. And both men were busted wide open. They do say you can win by either pinfall or knockout. And I'd like to know why Bundy didn't want a 12 count. Because, he always wants a 5 count for a pinfall, so the other guy can't say that the referee screwed them. So how could maybe Dusty will now say the referee screwed him on the 10 count? It's faster than 10 seconds.
Dusty would have kicked out at 11 and a half.
Exactly. So the finish sees Ted DiBiase run down. He throws a foreign object into Bundy. Dusty lays out DiBiase, but Bundy uses the brass knucks plus his already taped fist to finally put down the Bull of the Woods. And as the match comes to a conclusion, we slowly zoom in on Dusty splotch.
Okay, so this finish, you would assume, was to protect Dusty.
You would think so.
Why is being knocked out viewed as less of doing a job than being pinned?
Because I don't know.
That's wrestlers think in weird ways. This looked good, like what we saw of it. I would have liked to have seen more of this. This looked like a very fun, wild, bloody brawl between Dusty Rhodes and King Kong Bundy.
I think I would have liked to have seen them have a normal match that became a wild, crazy, bloody brawl. Because, like I said, I don't think tape fist matches are like one of those matches. Like, I don't know, they get boring if you're watching them on TV for too long. And
here's the thing. I have a pet peeve. I think, and I swear, at one point it felt like it was the rule, and then it's just gone away over the years. I think that in any standard professional wrestling match that doesn't have some kind of special stipulation, a standard pro wrestling match, I think closed fist punches should be illegal.
Should be illegal?
Yeah.
I mean, technically they are, just that it doesn't get enforced.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Because then if guys weren't punching each other in every match, then when you've got a big grudge match and you say we're going to have a taped fist match and everybody will know that means closed fist punches are legal. That should be the purpose of a taped fist match.
Well, honestly, I mean, I'm sure they're doing it before this, but it's like, go back to Hogan as champion. Like, what the hell was he going to do if not for, the 3 punches?
Not my problem. Learn how to fucking work.
It's not? So you're
No.
telling me that Hogan's WWF title run from 84 to 88 was not your problem?
I was not alive for 7/8 of that title reign.
To point out that you were born and they immediately took the belt off. So what does that say?
That was after the tornado, believe it or not. In between me being born and Hogan losing the title, the tornado happened.
It's like I think Vince somehow knew that there was something going on in the world, and he had to get that belt off Hogan ASAP.
He sensed it, and he
Yes.
knew a child was just born, and I'm going to do shit despite that child for the next 35 years.
Seems perfectly believable and logical. Speaking of things that are perfectly believable and logical, North American champion Junkyard Dog took on Butch Reed in a 2 out of 3 falls match in what was introduced as an unusual violent match. Now,
Unusual violent match.
yes. Now, watching these Superdome matches, and we've seen a few Mid-South house show matches too over the last few months. There was that one a few weeks ago, wasn't it, with the fucking Black Ninja, where they just had the ring with the spotlight over it? Where that's basically Mid-South's version of production. You have a ring, you have a single spotlight, and especially at this point, this is all these people need it. Now, of course, modern day, we are spoiled by good production. Even, your lower level indie shows have at least a modicum of production if they're going to put their shit on, in a televised manner.
Yeah.
So it's, weird to watch wrestling like this, especially since, it's not like the spotlight is moving. The spotlight is singularly over the ring. And so when they go out of the ring, which happened in this match, you can't see what the hell's going on for the most part.
Yeah.
Now, this match exemplifies one of the issues that I had with 2 out of 3 falls matches, is that what the hell's the point of it? Because, and obviously
especially if you're going to do it like this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but by and large, 2 out of 3 falls matches, the eventual winner wins one of their falls by a bullshit manner, whether it be DQ, count out, whatever. And sure enough, Reed wins the first fall by disqualification when Dog intentionally runs him head first into the post. Now, outruns Buzz Sawyer, who we haven't seen in a while, to bandage Reed's head to prepare him for the next fall. He did not pass his first aid class, I don't think, Buzz Sawyer.
I don't think Buzz Sawyer passed a lot of classes.
I think there's a lot of people who can hate Buzz Sawyer, like, how he fucked The Undertaker over when The Undertaker wanted to train with him originally. And now Butch Reed wanted him to be patched up, so he could continue the match. And Reed fucked that up too.
A very unreliable man.
Yes, he is. Like Reed was.
But you know who you can. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Reed.
So you know who you can rely on?
Joe Hendry.
King Kong Bundy.
Yes, King Kong Bundy. He always reliable, King Kong Bundy. Reed looked like he was wearing a giant white bandana on his head, and it did not last very long. Like the referee pretty much pulled it right off. Buzz gets in the ring and gets his ass kicked by the Dog. So the second fall goes to Dog by disqualification. And then the third fall lasts about as long as this sentence.
17 seconds.
Dog knocked Buzz into the referee. The referee bumps out of the ring. Bundy runs down, still with his fist tape and still with the brass knucks on over the tape fist. And he lays out Dog. The referee wakes up as Reed shoots the half, makes the cover, gets the pin, and wins the championship. Now, I didn't look up to see how long this match went before the end of the first fall. I've seen a lot of these Superdome matches that unnecessarily go an extraordinarily long amount of time. And, I mean, Dog I mean, the whole point of this feud has been Dog has not been taking care of himself. His success has been going to his head, and so he's put on more than his fair share of weight here. And my source did not indicate how long this match went, but either way, it's like however long that first fall went was basically the match, because the 3 falls happened in quick succession, one after another.
Yeah. I thought it was edited a little bit, but you may be right.
Now, fun fact, this is only the second time Dog has lost in the Superdome. And the first time was in the finals of a tag team tournament where he had already won 2 or 3 matches already. Now, I do hope that you're liking this feud, Trey, because this feud's going to keep going for the next year plus.
You better learn to love it, I guess.
Yeah. Literally, this feud goes until Dog leaves, and Dog leaves in August of next year. Now, there is, much like the Dog DiBiase feud, he didn't just, exclusively feud with DiBiase. He was also, feuding with this person and that person over there. But the overarching feud is going to be Dog and Reed.
That's exciting, I guess.
Yes.
I didn't like the thing with the DQs. I thought that was utterly pointless. But the way that this fuck finished that they orchestrated, I thought it was clever and well executed.
Indeed. And they're good at these clever fuck finishes.
That's one of Watts' hallmarks.
Yeah. By the way, do you want to know what the other matches on this show was?
Sure.
The opener was Johnny Rich defeating Rip Rogers. Then our favorite, George Weingroff, beat Art Cruz. Magnum TA beat Buzz Sawyer by disqualification. Iceman Parsons defeated Buddy Roberts.
Oh.
Mil Mascaris and your favorite wrestler, Tim Horner, defeated Mr. Olympia and Boris Zirkov. Mr. Wrestling 2 pinned Larry Zbyszko. Tommy Rich beat Kamala. I know. And then in the main event, Jim Duggan beat Ted DiBiase in a lights-out match.
Can't believe the people in New Orleans got to see Larry Zbyszko from the Anomni in Atlanta.
Yes, and
can you imagine a more heads up their own asses team than Mil Mascaris and Tim Horner?
Oh my God! There's a reason this team doesn't last long. It would drive every promoter up a fucking wall.
I'm just certain that that's the only time Mil Mascaris ever teamed with Tim Horner.
I'm not going to go any further into this, but I'm confident that's the case.
Fucking.
So we go to commercial, and we come back, and Bill Watts isn't here anymore. But you know who is fucking here?
Fucking Buddy Nichols.
Buddy fucking Nichols, who made wrestling the way it is today in Alexandria, Louisiana. And, who did we piss off to get more Buddy Nichols in our life?
But I don't know.
By the way,
I did deserve this.
I can confirm that this is the only time Mil Mascaris and Tim Horner ever teamed in a match.
Really? Cornette never brought Mil to fucking to work fucking Sevierville and Jellicoe?
I don't think Jim could afford it. So we actually have some matches here from the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Louisiana. Our first match is new North American champion Butch Reed versus Art Cruz. Buddy Nichols tells us multiple times that this is a non-title match. So I'm sure Butch Reed retained the championship here with a shoulder tackle on Art Cruz and the pin.
Art Cruz didn't really do a lot, but he's good at getting his ass kicked.
Yes, he is. He is a perfect early 80s jobber.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming you have nothing else to say about the match because I literally read everything I wrote.
Look, I tried to find something substantial to say about every match, and that was my takeaway. Art Cruz is a good job guy.
Boris Zirkov versus Dr. Death Steve Williams.
Now here's a fucking enhancement match.
Dr. Death is back with his maroon bathrobe and his blue singlet. I am shocked that Buddy is still here since this match gives us two things Bill Watts loves: Dr. Death Steve Williams and talking shit about Russia.
Yeah.
I will say, this could have been a lot worse than it was. Now, I am sure there are some people who might be gobsmacked that I dare say something mean about Dr. Death Steve Williams, but keep in mind, this is Dr. Death when he is maybe 50 matches into his career. So this is not, All Japan Dr. Death of 91, But Williams won with an Oklahoma Stampede in a match that was perfectly adequate, I thought.
So here's what I'm confused about. So the Bolsheviks sucked, right?
Yes.
I'm not misremembering that. The Bolsheviks sucked.
They sucked many dicks.
Okay, I remember the Private Jim Nelson, in Mid-Atlantic, he was pretty good for an underneath guy. He's completely fine here. What happened?
I think, it's the WWF, and there's a lot of examples, and we're not sitting here and saying Boris Zukov, is an all-time great wrestler, but the WWF breeded, I don't want to say laziness, but the insane schedule that they had, you had to, put forth 1/8 assed effort most nights just to get through it all. And, we've made the comment that sometimes that's all people need, if the fans are happy getting shit matches, why put forth more effort? But, Boris Zirkov, I'll go as far as saying he has an unfair reputation of being a shit worker because everyone remembers him with his giant head in WWF.
Yeah, that was the worst travel schedule in the history of wrestling. It wasn't like now where you have a house show loop and it would kind of be routed where you do, I don't know, just say for the sake of argument, you're going to do Nashville on Saturday, Memphis on Sunday, Little Rock on Monday, and then you're going to go to Dallas, and you're going to go from Dallas to Houston. No, this was every day. You'd work Chicago, you get on a fucking plane and go to Los Angeles, and then you go from Los Angeles to Miami, and then you go to work the Garden, and then you go to Toronto. It was a fucking nightmare. Flights across, cross-country flights every day. The rings that the WWF used in the 80s were as hard as fucking granite. Even guys who had that reputation as workers and who really wanted to work hard just fucking couldn't. It was all you could do to, get your match down that you could stand doing, and then you do that match every night until you're in a different feud and you got to come up with a new match.
Yeah. And honestly, you can blame NBC for that hard-ass ring because they didn't want the ring to bounce.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, and then they had that cement ring until Vince started taking bumps, and then voila.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yes. Well, funny how certain things roll, like thunder rolls and the lightning strikes. It's Trey's favorite wrestler, Tim Horner, teaming with John E. Rich versus tag team champions Ted DiBiase and Mr. Olympia. Now,
it's DiBiase and Olympia still the tag team champions. Like, it feels like they switched the North American title more often than the tag titles.
It's funny how that works. And I mean, they kind of do that where it's like they don't want to confuse you too much with title changes. So it's like if one title's going to, bounce back and forth a lot, the other one will kind of stay steady just so you're not, losing track of what's happening.
Yeah. That makes
Now,
sense.
now, because Buddy Nichols did not tell us 15 times during this match that this was a non-title match, I just go ahead and assume that this match was, in fact, for the championship.
See,
Now,
I assume it's a non-title match unless specifically told otherwise.
I mean, yeah, it was a non-title match, but I'm just mocking Buddy Nichols for saying it
Well,
nonstop in our first match.
yeah. You mock
Now,
Buddy Nichols for whatever reason you need to.
now, of course, Tim Horner is not our favorite wrestler.
Fucking
However,
Horner. He was full of piss and vinegar. It's not fair to me that he's actually good.
yeah, like Olympia and Horner in the first 5 seconds had the best wrestling on the show. It's like goddamn, imagine if Horner had actually learned how to cut a promo. And
he was like he was a good enough worker. I can't find any fault with him as a wrestler. Other than later when he's trying to be a babyface in a Southern Territory and his fucking wife doesn't want him to blade.
it's like, god damn, like do you think he thought he cut good promos?
I don't know what he thought. I don't get the impression that he was a great thinker.
Maybe his wife told him that they were perfectly fine. But maybe Pam Lawson was
Didn't he
teaching
run
him how
for
to cut
office
promos.
as a Republican?
I don't know if he was a Republican, but he did run. He did run for office, and he lost.
Well,
people did not
silver
want
lining.
Horner in their corner. Now, since we're not
Did he
ripping
campaign
on,
on building a natural bridge?
tremendous. Since we're not ripping on Horner enough during this match, let's rip on Buddy Nichols, who says fans won't believe
Fucking Buddy
what
Nichols.
fans won't believe what a win can do for Rich and Horner. Well, tell us, asshole. Tell us what a win will do for Rich and Horner. Instead, he's just moves on with his life. The faces ping pong the heels, which gets the best reaction of anything we've seen so far. Shockingly, the wrestling fans like good wrestling. The finish was a little clunky. Olympia backdrops Rich over the top rope and takes forever and a day to load his boot with a foreign object. And then he drop kicks Horner into a DiBiase power slam to give the champs the non-title victory.
It was totally fine.
We are suddenly whisked away to Houston for Jim Dugan versus Kamala with General Skandor Akbar.
Hate when I'm whisked away to Houston.
This was just a crazy angle.
Yeah, big schmaz.
Yeah, I imagine they're going to be running this match back in Mid-South soon. These two just, they clubbered each other. The referee tried to get involved, so they threw the referee out of the ring. A second referee ran in, and he got thrown down. And then the ring filled up with all of the undercard guys. And Duggan and Kamala spent several minutes fighting through the undercard guys to get at each other. And Duggan eventually runs everyone off with a steel chair.
Yep, that's what happened.
I mean, I'll never dislike a bunch of clubbering, and it's hard to imagine that this is the same Jim Duggan and Kamala who undoubtedly had some stinkers on WCW Saturday Night in 1995.
Yeah, Duggan and Kamala in '83 sounds kind of fun.
Yes. I can't wait till we get to 1995 if you're still watching WCW Saturday Night to see if that match does happen.
Oh, God.
you may quit watching wrestling altogether by that point. So we then get our final match, our expiration of time match, Mr. Wrestling 2 versus Rip Rogers. They announced that there is some controversy about the national heavyweight title. However, Mr. Wrestling 2, the babyface, has stolen the title, and because he's a babyface, that is a good thing. And
this is a rib on me, because the universe decided at some point that there has to be a stolen belt angle going on in some promotion that I'm watching at all times.
Watch it as soon as this gets resolved, which I honestly, I do not remember this, this viewed at all. So it's like, I'm thinking like it's just going to disappear without a trace, in a week or two. But anyway, especially because like 2 is a baby face. He has stolen this title. And we've been given no reason to know why he would do that. Why would this honorable babyface, steal the championship belt that rightfully belongs to somebody else?
If I was Larry Labisco, I'd feel very aggrieved.
I would show up at the Omni and demand my title back.
Yeah. So this match went a minute. There's really nothing to say. The only thing is that the bump that Rip took for the knee lift was fantastic.
Rip continues to be the MVP of jobbers. And next week, we're going to have Junkyard Dog versus Mr. Olympia and a North American title match as Butch Reed will take on the popular star Magnum TA.
Oh.
I bet you didn't know how popular he was.
I actually wrote, I paid no attention when they were talking.
I mean, anytime Buddy Nichols is on TV, I don't want to pay attention either, so I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Mid-South?
No. Kind of I don't know. Not a lot happening. There was a lot of highlights. I guess we're transitioning into some new feuds.
Yes. Well, let's move 190 miles west to the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas for World Class Championship Wrestling, also July 23rd, 1983. Let's go to the intro with Bill Mercer, who's going to tell us about a tremendously exciting feature on this week's show.
Welcome to World Class Championship Wrestling from the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, the greatest array of international wrestling stars. And we've got a tremendously exciting feature. It is gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine, valets for a day for David Von Erich. And our in-ring main events, Buddy Roberts wearing that boxing headgear and we think the wig against his awesome opponent, Bruiser Brody. And a tremendous array of other wrestling action. We'll be right back with a match videotaped at Reunion Arena featuring the Mexican women's champion Lola Gonzalez and her challenger Vicky Garanza next on World Class Championship Wrestling.
Okay, so, we have our tremendously exciting feature today. Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine finally being the valets for David Von Erich. And we also have a main event of Buddy versus Brody. And the other thing, did you notice we have a new intro of the show?
Did we?
Yeah, it's the same theme song that, is always going to be there. But they now have the intro that everyone remembers from World Class with the satellite going around the Earth and beaming World Class into homes in Dallas, Texas.
Oh.
1983 technology at its finest right here.
Indeed.
Now, the opener is Lola Gonzalez versus Vicky Carranza for the Mexican National Women's Championship. Now, in case this match sounds familiar to anybody, it's because we talked about it a month ago during the Greatest International Star Wars show. If you really want to hear us talk about it in depth, or as in depth as we were ever going to be on that match, we talked about it on the 100th episode. So go check it out. It went 9 minutes, and I note at least it wasn't Chris Adams versus John Mantell.
It was, I don't know. I was kind of down on it the first time, but then when I was replaying, I'm like, well, let me give this another watch. And then so I watched it again, and it was completely fine.
I did not rewatch it, but I'd imagine part of it too is that, the first time we're watching this 2.5, 3 hour show filled with matches that have actually been built up with angles and storylines. And here is this random cold women's match between two people we've never seen on the show before, and I doubt we will ever see again. And so it's like, yeah, I could see why we were a bit down on it before.
Yeah, but I did in fact amend my rating from I think half a star to 2 stars.
Wow, that is a giant bump.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was just it happens. Sometimes you're just not in the right mood for a match.
Now, we've been talking for about a month now about what a dick David Von Erich is.
Jesus, God, I hate to speak ill of the people who are going to be dead in the next 6 months, but man, David was a dick.
If it makes you feel better, he lost 7 months, so there's that.
Well, that makes it fine then.
Yes. So we mentioned, that David had cost his brother the NWA World Heavyweight title by jumping in the ring and getting him disqualified in the match with Harley Race. And we mentioned the slave match between him and Jimmy Garvin, where the winner would get to enslave the loser for, I imagine, just one day. They didn't, specify a length of time. Now, of course, this being 1983, you're supposed to find it amusing to see the heel get his comeuppance. And I'll be honest, it is kind of amusing to see what we're about to talk about here. So let's go to the ranch with David Von Erich and Bill Mercer, who just happened to be there, and see where this goes.
5 times, David Von Erich and gorgeous Jimmy Garvin have met for the Texas Heavyweight Championship. And 4 times, they either had it disqualified or some problem kept it from being resolved. The 5th time, though, the winner would have the loser as his valet for a day. And David Von Erich won. So, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine became David Von Erich's valet for a day. A big day with David Von Erich as gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine play the part of valets for you. This must be a big, big occasion.
It's a great day for Dave because today Jimmy Garvin's going to learn what it means to have a full day's work.
You got a lot of plans?
All day long.
Well, come on, Von Erich, let's get the thing started, man. Let's get the thing started. I want you to know right now I'm not going to be enjoying myself.
Okay, let's start it up by you getting out of the car.
Okay, I'm out of the car. Now, what do you want me to do? I'm out of the car. Let me tell you one thing. Let's get one thing straight right now. The only reason I'm here, Von Erich, is because my lawyer told me I had to be here, okay? Because if I wasn't here, I couldn't wrestle nowhere in the United States. Do you understand me, Von Erich?
I understand you well enough, Garvin. You stand in my face again, I'll knock you down.
What do you want?
I want you to get out of my way, open the door for Bill Mercer, my valet, and meet me behind the house in the back 40. Open the door.
In the back 40, open the door for Mr. Bill Mercer. I know it's some kind of joke with you, Von Erich. Walk is harder. I don't want to walk, Von Erich. I don't want to walk. You think this is some kind of joke? I can tell right now that this ain't gonna work out at all. I can tell right now. Walk, walk, walk is hot. I don't want to walk. Walk.
Okay, so I lied. They specifically say it's, valet for a day. I do have to ask if, Jimmy Garvin lost, why does Sunshine also have to be a valet? Is it so David Von Erich is getting 2 free laborers for an entire day? Does that mean if Jimmy would have won, he would have gotten 2 Von Erichs? Or does that mean David would have had to work for him for 2 days to make up for it?
Maybe Sunshine is just being Garvin's valet and she has to help him valet. So she's the valet for the valet.
Interesting. So she's not actually under David's auspices. She's just there because Jimmy has told her to. Now, why? I can understand also, okay, he lost the match, so he has to do all this, yard work and whatnot for David.
Hello?
But what? Hello.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. I can now.
Great. So I understand why he has to do all this yard work and whatnot for David. Why does he have to kowtow to Mercer as well?
Because I don't know. Mercer is the guest. You have to be polite to guests.
Sure, why not? So yeah. Now, it does lead to hilarity, of course. It's everything you're expecting. Garvin is digging a hole, and this is where we get more David's dick, because Garvin's digging a hole, but he's got a spur in his shoe. So he tries to take his shoe off to take the spur out, and David threatens to shoot him for it.
Dick, man. Okay, I live in Texas, and those spurs can be fucking awful.
Now, if you were to try to take one out of your shoe, and I threatened to shoot you if you would you rather take the bullet?
Lost you again.
If you were trying to take off your shoes so you could take out a spur, and I threatened to shoot you, would you rather take the bullet? It's going to be one of those episodes, isn't it?
I'm only hearing about one at every 10 syllables. I don't know. I can hear you now, but it keeps going out.
Great. So if I threatened to shoot you, if you took off your shoe to take out a spur, what would be worse?
Well, the worst, I think getting shot is probably worse than the burr, but it's really dick move either way.
So,
of all the okay, they made him wash his dog, whatever. He made him wash his dog, made him fucking move hay bales across the field by hand. That's normal. You're a slave for a day stuff. This firing a shotgun over his head for trying to get a burr out of his shoe, you're just an asshole.
Indeed. So then let's go to the conclusion of this little skit. Bill Mercer and David are hanging out in a barn, and more hilarity ensues.
David, I'm surprised Garvin hasn't refused to do anything. He's complained a lot, but he's doing these things you want him to do.
Billy had no choice. He lost. He has to do them. That's the way it goes.
This old barn that you got him in here now to clean up, this thing must be 100 years old. Where is this?
We used to store hay out here. It's my granddad's old barn.
Listen to me and listen to me good, man. Look, I've done everything that you've asked me to do, okay? I've dug the post holes. I've washed the dogs. I give up my car to you when I first got here. I'm not gonna clean up this old barn, man, on that television right there. These cameras are gonna have to go, if you know what I mean. I don't mind doing it because I realize I gotta do it or I can't wrestle in the United States no more. But I'm not gonna do it. I'm not cleaning this poor excuse for a barn on those television cameras. Do you understand me, Von Erich?
You're gonna do it, Garvin, because you lost. That's
you ain't doing nothing to me, man.
Come on, what?
Hey! Come here! Come here, hand over here, come here.
All right. So, Jimmy Garvin, who has not refused to do anything, is willing to clean the barn as long as you turn the stupid fucking cameras off. And of course, David's a dick and is like, no, we have to film your humiliation, all day long. And it's like, if
By
I
the
were...
time Garvin finally tackled David, I was fully on his side.
Oh, yeah. I would have tackled him too. Ah, Lord. So, no word on if Garvin actually cleans the barn or if there's more to this story next week. But We then go back to the ring for one of the top heels in the company, Michael Hayes.
Oh my God.
To go one-on-one with the brother of the Booker, Johnny Mantell. So he's now.
Fuck. You already said pretty much exactly what I had written down. Like, Hayes, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd have to say the top heel in the territory presently.
Yes.
And he should blitz Johnny Mantell in like 3-4 minutes max. But of course, Mantell is the Booker's little brother, so he gets to be competitive for 8 minutes with the number one heel in the territory.
I honestly thought it was going to be a 10-minute draw.
It did too. Hey, well, it was 7:56, so they only had about 20 to 40 seconds left in the 10-minute time limit.
Good old Texas math. I get this is 1983, and maybe I'm just biased because we hate Johnny Mantell. Have they ever marked? Motherfucker, can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
Hey, there you are.
This is not going to be a fun rest of the show, is it?
Brutal.
So we hate Johnny Mantell, and, so maybe I'm just being biased. Have they ever marked out so much for a body slam and an arm drag ever before in wrestling? Like, to the point that they showed a fucking replay of a body slam and an arm drag.
No. Oh, by the way, I just want to note, Mark Lawrence still looks rather sickly, but didn't appear to be drunk this week.
That's good. You know what else is good? Johnny Mantell's going to be here for another year.
Yeah, sounds about right.
June of 84, and then he comes back in 85. But the funny thing is, it doesn't look like he does anything of note ever. Like, he never really gets pushed. He doesn't win a title. He doesn't really do anything except just be in the territory forever. And the Pride of Monte County, Texas, did not go to a time limit draw here. Instead, Hayes blocks a side Russian leg sweep and wins with a middle rope elbow drop. Thank the fucking Lord Michael Hayes was able to beat Johnny Mantell this week.
Just, it's a rib. It's a rib at this point.
If that's not enough of a rib, Chris Adams, the person who could not beat Johnny Mantell, was up next to wrestle the number 2 heel in the company, Terry Gordy. Now, you might be wondering where on the babyface heel depth chart Johnny Mantell is. There's like 20 people in this company and this territory. Johnny Mantell is somewhere around number 18 or 19. And, Chris Adams, who's somewhere around 10, maybe a little higher, maybe 8 or 7, he cannot beat Johnny Mantell, but he fucking beats Terry Gordy. Like,
yeah, I was surprised.
By the way, Adams was exerting a lot of effort in this match. He was covered in sweat by the 5-minute mark. And I know it's Texas in July, so you think, well, maybe it's just really hot in the building. But you would think you'd see fans fanning themselves or whatever, and nobody was doing anything like that. So I think it's just Adams was really going at it here.
So I didn't hear what you said, so I don't know what you said about the match, but what I have written down is, if you like to see people work a headlock, this is the match for you. And I do, so I enjoyed this.
Adams hit 2 super kicks, missed the top rope senton, but came back and won with a bridging German suplex.
And I can't imagine too many German suplexes had been seen on US TV at this point.
No, not happening. Gordy was upset that he did a job for the guy that couldn't beat the Booker's brother and posted Adams post-match and dropped him with a Samoan drop. So just so we're clear of the pecking order, Adams is not good enough to beat John Mantell, but is good enough to cleanly pin Terry Gordy.
Yeah, strange.
Main event time. Buddy Roberts with his friend and neighbor Michael Hayes versus Bruiser Brody. Hayes psychs up Buddy before the match, but didn't seem to be doing a good enough job because Brody just threw Buddy to and fro. This match was all about Brody wanting to collect on Iceman Parson's bounty that he's offering to anyone who yanks off Buddy's alleged wig. It built to a spot where at this fucking finish here, tell me how this finish makes any sense. Not so much like the finish, but like the decision of the finish. Buddy goes for a bulldog. Brody blocks the bulldog. Buddy takes a bump. Brody goes over, yanks the wig off of Buddy's head. Buddy runs away and thus is disqualified for outside interference.
There was something with Hayes in that kerfluffle that that Hayes pulled Buddy out of the ring.
That constitutes outside interference?
Sure. Look, we talked about how very in-depth fuck finishes were like a Bill Watts hallmark. A Ken Mantell hallmark is very uninspired finishes.
That would be what we just saw here. That was an uninspired finish. Then we finished the show with a promo with Brody and Iceman Parson, because again, Brody now has the wig, and Iceman is a man of his word and is going to give Brody his money.
Bruiser Brody and the Iceman right here with us, and $500 worth of hair right there.
That's right, baby. You know, I told the people that I put a $500 bounty out on that man's head, and I wasn't jiving, and I want y'all to see. So here it is right here, baby. Thank you, brother. Give me some. All right, here it is.
$500 for the wig. There he is.
Right.
You feel a lot better about this, don't you?
That's right. I feel 100% better, baby.
You know, Bill, I feel like I only did half a job for the Iceman. I promised I'd get the helmet and the hair. So I'm going to go ahead and tear this money open. I'm going to give half of his money back to him until I can do a better job next time around.
Well, that's big. That's big. Well, we hope to see that soon. You did a great job tonight. Thank you, Iceman. Thank you, Bruiser Brody. We look forward to the time you can meet Kamala, too.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks.
There they are. $500. Well, $250 richer.
Okay. So, Iceman gives Brody the $500. Brody says he only did half a job for Iceman, and I'm like, when does Brody ever do a job for anybody? Half or otherwise. But then Brody gave him back roughly $250. And I guess he's got to yank off the headgear to earn the other $250.
Okay, I want to applaud the integrity of Bruiser Brody here, because I actually had already written down a whole thing about how Brody pulled the wig off, but technically the bounty was on the headgear, and he did not pull the headgear off. He pulled the wig off through the headgear. So
yes,
he did not technically fulfill what was my understanding of what the bounty was for.
Correct. And I will say that I love the fact that Mercer tries to bring up Kamala, and Brody just says, "Thank you, Bill," and walks off. I'd like to assume that, Brody just didn't hear him or whatever. And just, assume Mercer was just ending the promo like normal. I saw something. I don't even remember what the hell I was watching. But I was watching a Gino Hernandez promo, him and Chris Adams, and Mercer shaves his mustache, and he just looks so weird without a mustache. And this podcast is usually better when two people can hear each other. But hey, we don't always need that here on this show. Sometimes we're just as good with me sitting here talking to myself. Because, hey, we managed to get this show in within the 90-minute time limit that had been placed on us before the start of G1.
Might be the worst show that we've done yet, but that wasn't even our fault. So it was the worst the audio has been. You know what's strange? I don't think we had these problems last week when I was like on my phone using my cellular. Like, is the problem me? Is the problem on my end?
I think I sometimes have spotty Wi-Fi, and unfortunately tonight's not a day that we can take a 20-minute break so I can restart the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So, for those of you who rely on our wild tangents for your entertainment, we promise to be back in our regular form later this week when we do Smoky Mountain.
Oh yeah. Like, you can get us to stop once, but you can't get us to stop twice in a week.
Yeah.
But
it's only, honestly, it's only because night 2 of the G1 is starting.
So tell us about night 1 of the G1. Or don't. Either way. Oh Lord, this is fucking great. All right, so we're just gonna end things here. So no talk. No talk about.
I'm sorry. There was like a blank. There was silence, and then you were ending the show, and then I was laughing about it, and then I don't know. We can go home. Have a good.
I'm already home. Bye, everybody.